Hey everybody, Audiophile Barista here. Today we are going to install a setup in a tiny house. This system breaks all the audiophile rules and still is the perfect solution for its owner. And welcome wonderful viewers. One of the main points that I make in my top 10 audiophile principles video is to be an ambassador for good sound and a better listening experience. And it should not matter what their budget is, or it should not matter if that person is even an audiophile or not. What I advocate for is that you help the other person to find a system that perfectly fits this person instead of trying to push a system that you would like to create for them. And today I have the perfect example. This artist has no budget, she's not an audiophile, listens mostly to YouTube, and she only has some 10 CDs. But the art of enjoying music is absolutely not lost on her. And yes, in our manly hobby, today we visit a woman. Now, strangely enough, this is both the longest project I have ever done and the shortest. Let me explain. It was short because it only took some 2 days to install, but this project started over a year ago. So a year ago she started building her tiny house. The main living room is now her studio where she creates her paintings, and she decided to go and live in the small attic upstairs. But as time management, logistics are not her strong suit, it took some time before she was finished. Now for me this was not a problem, and as soon as she was ready we started installing the system. Now most of the art that you see here in the video is her own, and she is also the one that made my wonderful coffee gear paintings. So it took some time before she was ready, but a few weeks ago we did finish the project and she is very happy. So about a year ago I bought this KEF surround sound set that I showed you in some of my videos, and it was really inexpensive, and at the time that I bought it I did not really even know what I wanted to do with it, but I had some experiments that I wanted to try. And when I found out that she was starting to build her tiny house, knowing that she had to do that with a tiny budget, I offered to provide her with a music system. Now the next step of course was to find an amp and a CD player, and the amp had to be able to accommodate 4 loudspeakers, and as this is a tiny house it still had to be tiny. And the same was true for the CD player. And as I was going through my collection it appeared that I already had the perfect contender. Enter the LINN Classic Music System. This thing is small and it has a CD player integrated. This one is perfect. I tried it out on the 4 KEF speakers, and you know what? This was actually a very good match. Now as you can see on the photos here, there is absolutely no place for a stand mount loudspeaker in this tiny house. There literally isn't any space left on the floor where I could place a loudspeaker. And this is why the KEF surround set is such a perfect match. They have a built-in system to hang them on the wall, and as you can see this is indeed a tiny house but with very high ceilings. So the idea was to put 2 speakers at normal height and 2 speakers high up in the air. Now my audiophile heart was of course not happy with that, but this is not my system. This is for her, and even if I would have been able to do a standard audiophile setup with 2 loudspeakers and a listening hotspot, she is not an audiophile. She will never sit in the hotspot to enjoy her music. That is not how she listens to music, so that is not what I should give her. Another thing that would break anyone's audiophile heart is cable length. Apart from 4 cables all being completely different in length, the longest cable was some 12 meters and 5 for the shortest. Now the 12 meters was because we had to run the cable all the way to the top of the ceiling and then back down again from one side of the room to the other side of the room. So to satisfy my audiophilia a little bit, I did use some good copper loudspeaker cables, oxygen free and with a considerable thickness. And here you see how we completely destroyed another audiophile rule by running 4 cables alongside each other and straight past the electrical box. And yes, that did hurt, but again, this was not for me, this was for her, and loose cables on her busy floor was just not an option. So we mounted the 4 loudspeakers, we ran all the cabling and we plugged everything into the Linn and fired her up. And the result was disappointing. But it was the first try, so let's investigate. It turned out that we could not really hear the 2 speakers up high. And when I looked into the Linn menu, it turned out that the balance was all the way on the left, basically playing only 2 loudspeakers. So I placed the balance in the middle and listened again. Much better now, but still not convincing. Now, I did not really have any experience with an acoustical room like this, with its high ceilings and L-shaped room, so one of the choices was how to divide the 2 left and right channels. Do you put one left channel low and one high? Do you put both left low and both right high? And is there even a need for left and right in a setup like this, in a room like this? Anyways, when I turned the balance even more to the right, suddenly everything fell into its place. Left, right, stereo sound, that was not what you were looking for in this setup. No, what was needed in this room was that you should be able to experience good sound wherever you were in the room. And the amazing thing that we created now was that when you walked through the room, you could not point out any of the loudspeaker positions, even if you were pretty close. Sound was just everywhere. And I have to tell you, I was really surprised. Now, this is no match for my main system, of course, but this was really an experience. And after playing one of her favorite CDs, she immediately said, well, this is the first time I can actually follow all the lyrics on this CD. And that was all I needed to hear. This was the perfect non-audiophile setup for her, completely fitting her lifestyle. But I must admit, I was actually very happy with the result, walking through the room and not being able to distinguish where is the sound coming from, but just being like in a cloud of sound was pretty amazing. Now let's talk about cost. What did I pay for this system? Well, if we look at the new prices from the days that the Linn and the KEFs came onto market, I believe this is a $1,500 to maybe a $2,000 system. However, this is all second-hand, of course, and I had some very lucky scores with these pieces, so I paid $70 for the loudspeakers, $150 for the Linn amplifier, and some $30 for the cabling. So for $250, this turned out to be an amazing system. You know, I have interconnects that are even more expensive than that. So let's wrap up this video. As you have seen, this is not your typical setup, but the aim was to create a system that completely fitted the habits and the lifestyle of the owner, and that was a complete success. Now, this is a tiny house, so it is a tiny setup. The integrated Linn has a small footprint and the surround sound speakers are also very small. Now, I forgot to tell you that in order to increase bass performance, I placed the loudspeakers close into the corners and, when possible, even close to the ceiling. Now, these speakers are, of course, not great bass performers, they can't be at this size, so placing them in the corners was the way to go. The 2 upper loudspeakers play the right channel and the 2 lower loudspeakers play the left channel. It sounds illogical, but for the sound distribution throughout the whole room, this was the best solution. Now, I did record some sound samples and I was not sure if I was going to play them here, because they do not really do justice to the system. It was done by holding the Zoom H8 recorder in my hand somewhere in the middle of the room, and because the window was still open you can hear the seagulls and the cars in the street. But I guess something is better than nothing, so here we go. The clips are very short, you can blame YouTube for that if you don't like it. Anyways, I had a lot of fun finishing this project and I hope you guys can appreciate the video. So thank you for watching, and as always, feel free to comment, but remember, she opened her home so you can all see inside, so please be respectful in your comments. And I will see you in the next one.
I don't know what it is that makes me love you so. Baby, won't you please come home? Rusted brandy in a diamond glass. I'm in the mood for love. I only know I never wanna let you go, 'cause your mama's all alone. Rusted brandy in a diamond glass.